What if the greatest strength on Earth is not bulging muscle, but the shared instinct to protect a fragile life? In the midst of a violent storm in Virunga, Dr. Lina Reyes, a seasoned scientist, heard an unmistakable sound, the heart-wrenching, agonizing shriek of a colossal silverback gorilla. It wasn't a roar of dominance, but a cry of pure loss after the floodwaters swept away its infant. Lina faced a choice: obey the rules and observe, or follow the call of compassion and intervene. She bravely approached a frantic giant with only a sliver of hope. The battle wasn't between man and beast, but between life and death. What happens when a scientist uses medical knowledge to defy death under the angry gaze of a gorilla father? Watch the miraculous moment when compassion and science cross the species line. The fury of nature often exposes the most tender hearts. The storm began as a gentle warning, but in an instant, it transformed the small stream into a raging, savage river. The silverback family, seeking safer shelter, was plunged into terror. The mother gorilla slipped while attempting to cross a muddy slope. In that terrifying moment, the unforgiving floodwaters snatched the infant from her protective embrace. The baby's short, piercing cry was swallowed by the roaring water. The mother frantically clawed at the mud, desperately watching the tiny shadow drift away. The father gorilla, the giant of the jungle, didn't hesitate. He roared, not in fear, but in pure love and ultimate rage, and plunged himself into the torrent. His immense strength became fragile against the indifferent nature. Logs, branches, and mud slammed into his shoulders and back. But he didn't retreat. He fought, not against an enemy, but against the impermanence of nature. Each stroke was a vow, a desperate attempt to save his child. When Lina arrived, she saw only a giant creature struggling, no longer the majestic king of the jungle, but an exhausted father fighting for what was most precious. Finally, the silverback found the infant. The small, cold body was trapped between two floating logs. He struggled to pull the baby to shore. Once on dry land, exhausted, he collapsed in the mud. The mother rushed over, holding the baby, her sobs like those of a woman in unimaginable pain. The father began to beat his chest, then his hands against the mud. His roars shifted from combat to a total surrender to grief. The sight melted Lena's heart. She understood that this giant, who could break anything with his muscle, was breaking down from helplessness. Hit subscribe if you believe love knows no species boundaries. With the entire gorilla family paralyzed by despair, Dr. Reyes knew she had to cross the invisible line between observer and participant. To ask a giant for permission to save his child, that is true humility. Dr. Lina Reyes stood there, drenched and alone, facing a furious silverback. The father gorilla's eyes, red and swollen with tears and rage, were locked on him. He stood up, showcasing his massive body, a living wall of menace. This was the most dangerous moment of her career. One wrong move could cost her life. Yet Lina didn't retreat. She had learned that in this situation, her only weapons were understanding and respect. She raised both hands, palms open, a universal gesture of peace. She didn't look directly at the father, which would have been interpreted as a challenge. Instead, she focused on the mother, who was trembling and clutching her infant. Their eyes met. In that brief moment, Lina conveyed a silent message. I understand this pain. I want to help. She spoke in a low, gentle voice, almost a whisper. I won't hurt. Let me try. The tension in the air was like a tightrope about to snap. Lena's life or death decision rested on whether the shared instinct of motherhood and pain could overcome the silverback father's primal defense mechanism. The mother let out a faint whimper and lowered her gaze. It was a silent acceptance, a desperate surrender. The father looked down, his roar subsiding into a low, cautious warning sound. The tacit approval was given. Lina knelt in the mud, an act showing absolute humility. She was not a predator, but a supplicant, staking her life as collateral. She carefully placed 3 fingers on the infant's small, cold body. She knew the baby's chance of survival was dwindling with every second. She had to act immediately under the close and menacing scrutiny of the giant father. She reassured herself that if the father hadn't attacked, it was because he, too, was placing all his faith in her. Lena knew she had less than 30 seconds before the baby had no chance left. If she failed, she would face the fury of protective instinct. She knelt, extended her hand, and felt the father gorilla's heavy breath on the back of her neck. She started counting down, then, for the first time, placed her lips on the tiny creature, preparing to breathe. This moment was not just science, it was pure faith. Drop a comment with the one word that describes Dr. Reyes's courage right now. Lena began. Her fingers, though trembling from cold and tension, moved according to a programmed procedure. Gentle compressions on the small chest, followed by breaths into the baby's mouth. She had to adjust her technique to fit the small primate body, a risky application of science. She had to perform chest compressions and artificial respiration, all under extreme stress. The silverback father leaned in closer, his hot breath against her neck like a ticking hourglass. His red, swollen eyes never left Lena's hands, demonstrating extreme vigilance. He was ready to attack if Lena made a mistake. His silence was a terrifying pressure, an all-or-nothing gamble on this unfamiliar woman. In contrast, the mother gorilla was immersed in despair mixed with faint hope. She huddled, clutching the infant's arm. She didn't look at Lena threateningly. Instead, her eyes constantly shifted from Lena to her child, as if silently praying and lending strength to the ranger. Each time Lena breathed, the mother emitted soft, tiny whimpers, not of pain, but of encouragement, a form of primal, weak support. Lena was caught between two intense emotions, the murderous distrust of the father and the faint hope of the mother. She focused her entire mind on a single action, bringing life back. Every compression was a plea. Every breath was a silent prayer. Please breathe, little one. Lena felt the silent, desperate message the father gorilla was sending. Save my child. She shut out all other thoughts, focusing only on two things, compressions and breathing. The sound of the rain, the growling, everything was blurred by the pounding of her own heart. She knew, if there was a spark of hope in the heart, oxygen would be the key. The first cough was a shocking interruption. A small stream of water flowed from the animal's mouth, followed by a weak gasp. It was so fragile it was almost drowned out by the rain. But for the silverback and Lena, it was the loudest, most resounding sound they had ever heard. The mother shrieked a cry of salvation, a scream of ultimate relief, pulling the baby close and sobbing uncontrollably. If you're rooting for this miraculous moment, hit the like button now. Lena's body slumped into the mud. She was exhausted, but her eyes shone. That small cough changed everything. It was the spark that turned the father's roar of grief into the deepest roar of victory. Following that miraculous moment, relief spread throughout the forest. The father gorilla's roar had changed. It was no longer a roar of rage or defeat, but a roar of life, of victory, echoing through the valley. The storm also slowly subsided, as if nature had completed its test. The mother clutched her infant, gently wiping the muddy face with her hand. The baby was weak, but breathing. The father, still standing tall, didn't attack Lena. He simply looked at her. It was a wordless, profound gaze, containing respect and gratitude that no words could express. No handshake, no social formalities needed. An unspoken covenant was formed between human and animal. Life had been protected. Lena sat up, covered in mud, yet feeling a strange peace within her. She had saved a life, but more importantly, she had witnessed and participated in a moment that proved the protective instinct is the thread that connects all living beings. The moment the silverback tilted his head slightly toward her before turning away was the final acknowledgement, a silent thank you. This is not just a story about CPR. This is a story about compassion transcending difference. We all face floods in our lives, moments of chaos and despair. But if one small breath and one brave act can soothe the rage of a giant, Imagine the power of empathy and simple action in your own life. The instinct to protect life is universal. Apply that belief today. This rescue event led Dr. Reyes to a breakthrough discovery about gorilla social bonding. Click here to watch our next video on how she used this moment to redefine conservation policy forever.